Veggielution. My name is Rosa Maria Gordillo and I would like to introduce you to composting today. I would like to show you some containers that any person at home that is willing to give it a try can start with. There are some units that are already set up and you can buy online or through some manufacturers locally. There are also some units like this one that is also stackable that the City of San Jose and UC Extension Master Home Composting and Education Program has available for all the citizens of the Santa Clara County. So those are the already made ones, but then you can improvise too. You can start out with a small bin, a plastic bin. You would need to perforate some holes at the bottom and on the sides, and also on the lid you will have to do some perforations so that you can have a system that doesn't kill the worms, or if you're just going to do regular composting for having the microorganisms that are going to do the decomposition for you, you will need some air as well. But let's start from the beginning so that way we can go. Why compost? First of all, it's a material that is very rich in nutrients, maybe not for you, but for the organisms that are part of the soil food web. And so what's the soil food web? Soil food web is every single organism that is on the ground that can eat out whatever waste, either from a tree, from a plant, that you might put to them. So with this in mind, it's like, okay, well, what do I gain from that? Well, number one, it's a way of recycling your waste. If you were right now to start collecting and separating what comes from your kitchen from what comes from the rest of your house, putting together with your food waste, toilet paper rolls, the rolls from the napkins that maybe you just use to clear something that is either a fruit juice or water. If you were to collect all that, you would see that it's about a third of the waste that you produce. And if you send that waste to the landfill, what happens is, in the landfill, let's say this is the hole where your garbage is going to go. They will make layers. They will make a layer of a plastic or something that is going to be at the bottom of it. Then they will compact some soil, and then they will start putting the garbage. That is going to be anything that you sent out, plastic, metal, whatever that got on, not sorted from recycling, including your food waste. So when the food waste gets laid on, it's going to be covered again in other layers of soil that is going to be heavily compacted. So what you end is with a lasagna of sorts, where it's going to start getting anaerobic. There's not going to be a lot of oxygen happening. So in the earth, when there is waste from the leaves, the critters come and eat it up. But there is air that is circulating, so for everything to stay alive underground. But what happens here, when you put this layer, there's other microorganisms that might start helping in the composition of that waste. But what happens is you start producing gas methane and nitrous oxide, N2O, and those two gases are gases that, first of all, at least methane is flammable, and both of them are gases that are considered greenhouse gases, and so those are really harmful for our environment. We have learned that at least N2O can be 300 times worse than carbon dioxide for our atmosphere and for the deterioration of it while becoming a greenhouse gas. So just that, kind of sobers you up on what's the quality of the air, what's the quality of my life for just making that little contribution from your kitchen to the world. So capturing the food waste can be very relevant. First, because you can add it to your soil or your neighbor's soil, and then, and probably the most important is because you might think, well, in the big picture, how much that represents, but it's 300 times more nauseous than carbon dioxide, the N2O that we start producing in our landfills. So now let's get started with composting. I'm going to show you how to make a regular compost bin. I'm not going to do it in our big unit just so that you can see better how would it be. But we are assuming that this is going to be a container that is going to have holes at the bottom, or something like this can also be used for if you just want to give it a try. This could be a really nice unit. It already open at the bottom. This is going to be going into a garden. This can, if something like this, if it has enough holes around, it's something that you can put in the garage or at the door of your household. So let me get some materials and I'm going to start demonstrating how to go about it.
Yeah, cool.
Let's start. This is to make a regular compost bin. So this is how it would look. So you could make if this is just a test, this would be great. If you want to have a unit at home, you can do it with pallets, you can do it with recycled wood, and we are going to be posting different examples of bins that you can find. And also, if you were to come here to Emma Prush Park, at the front of the Emma Prush Park, there's an area where there are displayed all the units, and also in Marshall Cuttle Farm, Master Gardeners and Master Composters have a demonstration site with all the units that you might have, and you just have to keep an eye on the advertisements for the workshops that the county, UC Extension, City of San Jose hold very frequently in our community for demonstrating and giving you all the science behind how to compost, but also the practical aspects of it. That is what we're going to try to do today, so that now that you're home, you can start doing it. So if you're going to do a regular compost bin, you need what they call the browns. It could be this. It could be also coffee filters, anything that it's kind of dead, right? So that's what we call brown, is things that are high in carbon content. And then you're going to have your waste, either your garden waste or your kitchen waste. That is going to be your greens. Sometimes it can look worse than this, or it can start getting soupy in your kitchen. If you have them in a bucket, it doesn't matter. But what you're going to do is, in a regular compost system, you are going to put a layer of browns at the bottom. It can be the newspaper, it can be leaves from trees if it's in the fall, or if you have a tree that is constantly producing material. So you're going to put it like that, and that's going to be your layer of browns. And then you put a layer of your food waste, your yard waste, that is going to be your greens. If you notice, I am trying to chop it a little bit. Normally, if it's coming out of your kitchen, probably it's going to be in smaller pieces. Because what happens is, if it's in smaller pieces, it's going to decay. It's going to break down faster, because the organisms that live in the soil will start getting into your system and start going all over and start decomposing it. So as you see here, these are already starting to decay. They dried out, and then some insects have started to eat on it. So we're going to put here some of our waste. And then the idea is to have 1-on-1 in ratio, how much brown and how much waste do you have. So, and there we go. This one's got a little bit of aphids, and so that's why I'm getting rid of them now in the garden. So, and then you can add, a layer of brown. If you don't have a lot of leaves, because it's the middle of the summer, You can get some newspaper. You can get envelopes from bills. You can have shredded paper from your documents and your junk mail. Just make sure that you don't put in the bin magazines or the inserts from the newspaper that are shiny. Any of those that have a lot of ink that it's shiny, don't put it. Most of the newspapers nowadays have ink that is plant-based, and so they have been tested, and there is no harm to your health putting them there if you're going to use the compost later on to put it in your garden with your plants that you're going to eat. So there's no issue. Other sources of browns are, compostable containers. I love to have handy egg cartons, because egg cartons also give bulk and create pockets, so that when you make your next layer, you have some air circulation. I know that we all should not be using this kind of containers preferably, and bring our own cups, but if you put it in the bin, there is a film that sometimes is in the inside of the cup, and it's going to come out. Probably this part is going to take a long time to decompose, but you can still add them and it's going to decompose. So you have it right there, and then cover it with a layer of browns on the top. Always, before you go away, put always a layer of browns. It can be this, it can be straw, it can be mulch, anything that it's carbonaceous. If you're harvesting corn, you can put the corn husks right on the top. You can put things that are sturdier, and we call it the brown. We have lists of that. If you go into the Master Composter's website, you're going to be able to find it. There's a lot of literature online. We will be giving you links to them. So in order for any organism that is going to munch on all these goodies, we have to give it water. So I have my hose over here, and you're going to try to make the waste wet to the point that it holds the water, but it's not soaked, totally soaked. It has to feel like a sponge that you rub. So then you're going to add water, and you can do the watering as you go, as I'm putting this system all together at once. So then I'm going to be making it nice and wet. Depending also on how moist your material is, you also are going to start gauging how much water your system is. So keep it aerated. One of the questions is like, I don't want to do composting because then I have to come and turn it all the time. You can turn it if you want. It's going to make it more expedite. It's going to make it faster in the decomposition, but you can also layer it. But you can also layer it. If you go a layer of green, a layer of brown, trust me, I have done it. And you don't have to be turning it. But just make the layers, and make sure then to put things that are going to bulk it up. Put some twigs, put some branches in the middle, so that you have pockets of air. I know there's some people that are, when you get really going on compost, you want it to be nice. So when you have it layered properly, a lot of bacteria are going to start getting in there, and some critters, and the temperature here is going to raise, and that means it's cooking. And so when that happens, you are really going to make sure that in case you had some, let's say, cucumber waste that had seeds, those seeds are not going to sprout later on. So that's the advantage of these systems, that if you layer it right, and if you have bedding of animals that are vegetarian, or like little rodents, you can put it in here, and all that manure is going to add to help you bring it to really good levels of carbon and nitrogen, and get your mineralization going here. So this would be a system that you can have. Normally the recommended size is 1 cubic yard. It's an ideal volume for a family, or between 3 and 5. and also depending if you have a garden and how many vegetables you eat. Things not to include definitely any dairy, any fat, any animal products or waste. Food that comes also, you know, in touch with fat, you shouldn't put in your systems, because it's maybe not that it won't decay together, but you are going to call for trouble, because you're going to call for roaches, you're going to call for vermin, you know, you're going to have rodents come if you have food that is rich in fat or meat. Okay, so this is the system, and you again, it's like you can do it up to 1 cubic yard. You can start out like that in small, so that you can see you know, how it goes. So this is the first system. So now let's do a quick review on units for worm composting that you can do at home. Some of the units that are really easy to use at home are these stackable ones. They have different names, but they are these very handy units. So in this top level is where I am adding food waste. So you see it's gotten a little dry, but today we're going to wet it a little bit. So I'm gonna wet my waste over here. And this is gonna be my top layer, my active layer. So my second layer, it's a layer where you can see there's still waste that it's not completely processed by the worms and the microorganisms that live in your compost bin. So there you can see our worms. And so what happened is, this is the unit that was the first one that we set up. So you can see there's fewer worms over here because they all go to where the food is. But you still can see a lot of them hanging out here. There's a lot of eggs. That means that they are very happy. And this layer is the one where if you wanted to start using your compost right away, you would have to just get it out of this unit and either sift it or just make a mound on top of a surface like this and put it in, you know, under the sun for, you know, 30 minutes. And the worms are not gonna like it to be close to the heat and to the light, and they are going to go to the bottom of it. So I'm gonna put this one right here so that it can help me sort the worms. Sometimes in this layer you collect fluid from the bins, and that leachate you can also harvest it through the spout, and you can collect that liquid and you have to dilute it a little bit, and then you can spray it or just, you know, put it on the soil to feed your plants. So to start building it again, this one is also one that I can harvest, so I'm gonna put it over here. Start to go down. So I'm going to build a new unit. So I'm going to start from the beginning. So you're going to put down the first layer. You can put a piece of cardboard at the bottom to give a little sturdiness to your system. I'm going to put it right there. And then you start putting your waste, making sure that your waste is moist. That is very important. You have to make sure that your waste is moist. Excuse me, I made a mistake. The waste is gonna be moist. Your layers have to be moist. Okay.
Yes.
So fix that, please.
Okay.
So your carbon layers have to be moist, and then you're gonna put your waste. And if you have paper cups, they can go too. You're gonna have to take the linings later on. I don't include citrus because citrus decays in a way that creates molds, and those molds can be really irritant for people. So no citrus. But then you can put most anything. So that's our waste, and most of the units have a line somewhere around here that tells you no more waste from that, because then you don't want it too compacted, or otherwise it can get anaerobic. So it would be like right there, and here you'll put some of the worms. So here you will add your worms. And then you can put your next layer and start. And if this one is not completely, if you had a layer that is not completely decomposed, you can leave it over there at the bottom and then just arrange your system, and the worms are gonna come up to where the food waste is. And this one will be ready for the next layer. I love using the cardboard from the egg cartons. And you can put some more waste in there. You can also put some shredded paper and bills. Newspapers are a source of carbon, but also create a nice area for the worms to get away from the produce when it starts decomposing, and sometimes the system gets a little hot. There we go. And I always like to put a little layer of cardboard. The cardboard has these little holes and give a little insulation to the bin, and it gives a place for the worms to hide, and at the same time it will insulate the bin. Your bin, when it has worms, it has to be in an area that is shaded. Your regular compost can be under the sun. You will only have to manage the amount of water that goes to it, but the worm has to be in a shaded area, or otherwise you're going to kill the worms. So there we go, and now we put the cover, and that's it, and you're done. You can do it in this kind of system that you can find already online, and the city of San Jose used to provide the citizens with for very low cost. They would give you a unit like that, but it's something that you can build really easily. We have placed this wood at the bottom just to raise it a little bit, and so that way if there's leachate you can collect it, or at least it's not sitting at the bottom of your bin. And then you can also make the same thing with units like, any kind of plastic box, or you can build a wooden box like the one that we already show you, a 5-gallon. Many of these ones are given away in the restaurants if you ask, because they buy bulk, and normally they can give it away to you. And if you're just going to test it, you can use a nice solid wooden box, but remember you're going to have to be able to keep it covered. So a thicker piece of cardboard, a piece of wood or something, so that your worms don't dehydrate. But this is going to be a very short-lived unit, so I personally would not encourage you to do it. I think this would be better for a regular compost bin if you want to give it a go. Just try it in a place in the garden so that if it rots, everything is self-contained over there. But otherwise, I think going with one of these units for an urban environment, it's the way to go. I've had all the systems. I've tried them all, If you eat a lot of vegetables, these ones sometimes come to be not the best, because you might need a bigger container, you know, something like this or something like the one that we show you that we have here in the youth garden, that we can give you instructions how to do. Enjoy composting.